The laugh hit Jalen Carter before the words did, bright, public, and sharp enough to make his ears burn. In the Eastbrook High hallway, the trophy case threw back the fluorescent lights like broken glass. Jalen clutched his shoebox to his chest, the lid trembling against his thumbs. Inside was Pulse, a half-finished wearable sensor, wires taped down with care, a tiny screen that flickered when it felt brave. He was walking toward the front office to drop off his scholarship packet. One signature left. One adult to say, in ink, that he belonged in rooms with real engineers. Look at him. Brent Harlow said from the bleachers outside the gym, loud on purpose. Little man thinks he's going to be the next Elon. A few boys chuckled. A teacher glanced over, then looked away, like seeing was the same as approving. Jalen kept moving. He told himself the shoebox was heavy. That was why his arms shook. Assistant Principal Donovan stepped into his path, smile neat as a press shirt. "Carter," he said, as if they were friends. "That's quite the project." "Yes, sir," Jalen managed. Donovan's gaze flicked to the box, then to Jalen's face, and the smile thinned. "Ambition is good," he said softly, "but you should understand something about doors. Some open for certain kinds of kids." Jalen's throat tightened. "What kind am I?" Donovan leaned closer, voice dropping to a private blade. "The kind people watch." Behind them, a phone camera lifted, recording, and Jalen realized, too late, that the hallway had gone quiet to hear what he'd do next. The Eastbrook High gym smelled of varnish and sweat that never left the bleachers. Jalen Carter crossed the painted court with his hands buried in his hoodie, trying to walk like his chest wasn't buzzing. Coach Ramirez's office door stood open. "Jalen," Coach called. "Come in." Inside, trophies crowded the shelves. A stack of forms sat on the desk like a dare. Coach slid one forward. The Eastbrook Youth Innovation Scholarship Application, faculty recommendation page on top. "You're really doing it," Coach said. Jalen nodded. "If I get the scholarship, I can go to the Summer Institute in Boston. Robotics and engineering." Coach's eyes brightened. "That's huge." Jalen's voice came out small anyway. "It's the only way." Coach picked up a pen. "Tell me what I'm endorsing." Jalen leaned in, words spilling once the gate opened. "A wearable sensor for asthma. It tracks air quality and heart rate. Sends alerts to a phone. My sister's attacks. Sometimes she can't talk. I want something that warns us before it gets bad." Coach paused. "You built that?" "I built the prototype," Jalen said. "I coded it on my phone. Our laptop crashes." Coach gave a low whistle. "Okay, that's not a dream. That's work." A burst of laughter slid in from the hallway, careless and loud. "Yo, Carter," a voice called. "You in there building a spaceship?" Another voice, amused. "He's engineering his way out of Eastbrook." Coach's jaw tightened. "Keep walking," he shouted. The laughter retreated, but one last line landed like a pebble to the teeth. "Dreams are expensive. Some people ain't got the right credit." Heat climbed Jalen's face. He stared at the blank signature line, the spot where an adult's belief had to become ink. Coach's voice softened. "Ignore it." Jalen tried, but his shoulders stayed high. "They act like I'm pretending. They act like you're supposed to know your place." Coach said. "You don't." Coach began writing. The pen scratched steady, a small sound that felt like protection. A hard knock hit the doorframe. Assistant Principal Donovan stepped in without waiting. Crisp shirt, tight smile. Two varsity boys hovered behind him, grinning like they'd been invited. "Coach Ramirez," Donovan said. "Quick word." "We're busy," Coach said. Donovan's eyes flicked to the form. "Recommendation?" "For Jalen," Coach replied. Donovan looked at Jalen, as if noticing him for the first time. "Jalen Carter, the inventor. It's a health monitor," Jalen said. "MMH." Donovan's gaze slid to the boys. "And you're applying to represent Eastbrook at some prestigious program?" "Yes, sir," Jalen said. "Engineering Institute." One boy, Brent Harlow, snorted. "Engineering?" he echoed. "We can't even keep the printers working." The other, Tyler Mason, laughed. "Maybe Jalen can fix the school next." Coach's voice cut. "Enough." Donovan raised a hand, calm on the surface. We love ambition, he said, but committees look for polish. No distractions. Jalen held his eyes. My grades are strong. And discipline? Donovan asked lightly. I don't have referrals, Jalen said. Donovan's brows lifted, like the answer surprised him. None. No, sir. Tyler tipped his head. He's quiet. You don't even see him, Brent added, unless he's recording stuff. I don't record people, Jalen said, throat tight. Donovan's tone stayed friendly while the message turned. Security noted an issue last month. Phone out during assembly. There were concerns you were filming. I was texting my mom, Jalen said. I wasn't filming. Donovan shrugged. Perception matters. Coach stepped forward. Donovan, stop. Donovan's smile sharpened. I'm advising. Sometimes it's better to aim for opportunities that fit. Local pathways. Trade programs. The sentence wore a compliment, but Jalen heard the leash. He spoke before fear could clamp down. Why does it fit? Silence snapped tight. Even Brent's grin hesitated. Donovan's eyes cooled. Excuse me? Why doesn't it fit? Jalen repeated. Is it my work? My grades? Or is it just me? Brent barked a laugh. Don't make it about race, man. Jalen's hands clenched in his hoodie pocket. I didn't say a word. You did. Coach pointed to the door. Brent. Tyler. Out. Donovan's smile vanished. Watch your tone, Jalen. Jalen forced himself not to look away. He thought of his sister's wheeze at night, his mom's tired hands counting bills, the hours he spent soldering wires while the house slept. I'm watching it, he said. I'm asking why. Donovan stepped closer, lowering his voice as if offering a private truth. Because when people look at you, he murmured, they see potential trouble, and scholarships don't go to trouble. The words hit clean and cold. Coach's chair scraped back. Get out, he said. Donovan straightened, smoothing his shirt. Consider this a warning, he said to Jalen. And be careful what you endorse, he added to Coach. The district dislikes surprises. He left. The two boys followed, laughter returning the moment they reached the hall. Coach closed the door slowly. The quiet after them was loud. Jalen's eyes burned, but he refused to blink. He thinks I'm trouble, he said. Coach set the pen down, hand shaking once before he steadied it. He thinks he can decide your future. What do I do? Jalen asked. Coach picked up his phone and held it up. You apply, he said, and from today on, we keep receipts. Jalen frowned. Receipts? Emails. Meetings. What said when it said? Coach replied, if they want to label you, we make them prove it. In the hallway, laughter echoed again, closer this time, like it was coming back for him. Jalen nodded, but his stomach still twisted. Through the small window, the trophy case glittered. Eastbrook Pride, the banner said. He whispered, pulse, and felt his dream beat back in cold hallway light. By Monday morning, the story had already grown legs. Jalen felt at the moment he stepped off the bus, the way conversations paused, the way eyes slid over him and then away. Eastbrook's brick walls looked the same, but the air felt thinner, like someone had turned the pressure knob without telling him. You okay? Nia Brooks asked, falling into step beside him. Fine, Jalen said automatically. Nia didn't buy it. You're lying with your shoulders. He huffed a weak laugh. Is that a thing now? It's always been a thing. She leaned closer. People are talking. Inventor stuff? He asked. Disrespecting admin stuff, she said. Different tone. In first period, Mr. Whitaker handed back quizzes without meeting Jalen's eyes. When Jalen raised his hand to ask about a missed point, Whitaker cleared his throat and said, let's not debate grades today, then moved on. In the hallway, a poster had gone up overnight. Dream big, Eastbrook. The words curled ironically above a picture of smiling students who didn't look like Jalen. At lunch, a counselor slid into the seat across from him. Tray untouched. Jalen, Ms. Kerr said, voice warm and careful. I hear you're aiming high. Yes, ma'am. That's admirable. But sometimes students benefit from realistic options. She smiled, as if offering a gift. Community college pathways. Trades. Things that fit. Nia's forked paws midair. Fit what? Ms. Kerr's smile tightened. Resources. Jalen swallowed. I already meet the criteria. I'm sure, she said, rising. Just think about it. When she left, Nia muttered, That wasn't advice. That was a warning. After school, Jalen went to the front office with his packet pressed flat. Every page checked twice. The secretary, Mrs. Bell, flipped through it, lips pursed. You're missing Form C, she said. Jalen blinked. I turned that in last week. She shrugged. Not in the system. Can I resubmit? Deadline was Friday, she said, already turning away. You'll have to wait until next cycle. Jalen's ears rang. The deadline is today. Mrs. Bell looked at the clock. According to our records, it was Friday. Nia leaned over the counter. Can we see the record? Mrs. Bell's eyes hardened. That's not appropriate. Jalen felt heat rise, sharp and dangerous. He remembered Coach's voice. Keep receipts. He forced his hands to unclench. Who should I talk to? He asked. Mrs. Bell sighed. Assistant Principal Donovan. The name landed heavy. Donovan's office smelled like lemon cleaner. He gestured for Jalen to sit, fingers steepled. I hear you're upset, Donovan said. I'm missing paperwork. Jalen replied. I submitted it. Donovan nodded sympathetically. Systems fail. That's life. So I missed a scholarship? Donovan tilted his head. Sometimes consequences follow choices. Jalen met his eyes. What choice did I make? Donovan's smile thinned. Attitude matters, Jalen. Committees want students who cooperate. Nia spoke up. He did cooperate. Donovan ignored her. Maybe this is a sign to recalibrate. Aim for something less contentious. Jalen stood. I want my packet logged. Donovan's gaze sharpened. Sit down. Jalen didn't. The room felt too small. Watch yourself, Donovan said quietly. I'm trying to help. Outside, Jalen's legs shook. Nia grabbed his arm. You did good, she whispered. You didn't give him what he wanted. At home, Tanya Carter listened without interrupting, hands wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. They can just lose it? She asked. They didn't lose it, Jalen said. They erased it. Tanya closed her eyes. Baby, I want you safe. I am safe, he said, though his chest felt tight. I just can't be quiet. That night, Jalen's phone buzzed. A clip appeared in the group chat. Him in the hallway. Donovan stepping close. The audio cut just before Jalen spoke. The caption read, Kid Wilden in admin's face. Comments piled up fast. Nia texted immediately. That's edited. Save everything. Jalen stared at the screen. Pulse loud in his ears. He thought of the sensor on his desk. Wires neat and patient, waiting for air that warmed before it choked. He opened a new folder on his phone and named it Receipts. The next morning, security stopped him at the door. Random check, the guard said. Jalen lifted his arms slowly. Around him, students streamed past unchecked. He felt eyes, felt the label trying to stick. As the guard waved him through, Jalen caught his reflection in the glass. Tired, angry, still standing. He walked on, knowing now that the fight wasn't just for a scholarship. It was for the right to be seen on the record, telling the truth. And this time, he wasn't letting them lose the paperwork. The first stop came before second period. Hold up, the security guard said, palm out, eyes already drifting past Jalen to the students flowing around him. Random. Jalen froze mid-step. The word landed with a practiced ease, like it explained everything. He glanced down the hall. No one else had been stopped. Phone, the guard said. Jalen handed it over without a word. The guard scrolled, face blank, thumb slow and thorough. Laughter drifted from a cluster of juniors 10 feet away. Phones out, screens glowing. No one glanced their way. Clear, the guard said, returning it. You can go. Jalen nodded and walked, jaw tight. By the time he reached chemistry, his hands were shaking. It happened again at lunch, and again after school when he tried to meet Coach Ramirez. 3 randoms in one day. You keeping count? Nia asked, scribbling in her notebook. Yeah, Jalen said. 3. She underlined the number twice. Names. Same guard. Same time window. Patterns. Nia said. They hate patterns. By Wednesday, the stops had spread. A hall monitor lingered near Jalen's locker. A teacher paused mid-lesson to remind him, only him, about the phone policy. Each moment was small enough to deny, soft enough to excuse. Together, they pressed. An email pinged during last period. Subject, behavior conference from Assistant Principal Donovan time, 2:14 p.m. Jalen, please report to my office tomorrow at 8 a.m. to discuss recent concerns. Attendance required. Concerns? Jalen whispered. Nia leaned over. You want me there? Can you? She didn't hesitate. I'll make it happen. Coach Ramirez joined them the next morning, shoulders squared, eyes alert. Donovan's office door closed with a soft click that sounded like a lock. Donovan smiled. Thank you for coming. This is about support. Jalen sat straight. What concerns? Donovan folded his hands. There have been reports of defiance, resistance to guidance, a tendency to escalate. Coach spoke first. What incidents? Donovan glanced at a folder. Multiple. Name one. Coach said. Donovan lifted his eyes. Yesterday, Jalen refused to sit when directed. Jalen blinked. I was standing because you told me to leave. Donovan's smile didn't move. Tone matters. Nia leaned forward. Where are the referrals? Donovan tilted his head. We don't need referrals to intervene. So there's no record, Coach said. But there's punishment. This isn't punishment, Donovan replied. It's prevention. Jalen felt heat rise. Prevention of what? Donovan's gaze settled on him. Heavy. Outbursts. Misunderstandings. Situations that make others uncomfortable. Others, Jalen echoed. Who? Donovan's voice softened, like a warning disguised as care. You're bright, Jalen, but ambition without humility reads as aggression, especially when you challenge authority. Coach's chair scraped. Careful. Donovan ignored him. We're instituting additional monitoring. Hall passes. Check-ins. For your benefit. For my benefit, Jalen said, steadying his breath. Or so I don't apply to things. Donovan's eyes flashed. Watch your assumptions. Nia flipped her notebook closed. We're done here. As they stood, Donovan added, almost kindly, one more thing. Recording staff violates policy. Any further incidents will have consequences. I don't record staff, Jalen said. Donovan smiled. Perception matters. The hallway outside buzzed with students. As they stepped out, a phone lifted. Then another. Jalen felt the prickle before the shove of sound. Yo, that him, someone whispered. By fourth period. The clip was everywhere. A shaky video from the hallway. Donovan stepping close. Jalen's shoulders squared. The audio chopped so his calm question vanished. The caption screamed. Kid goes off on admin. Jalen's phone vibrated nonstop. You wild. Shoulda just sat down. Why you always gotta make it about race? Nia texted. I'm saving the original link. It's cropped. Coach pulled Jalen into the weight room after school. The clang of plates a shield. They're baiting you, Coach said. They want you loud. I wasn't loud, Jalen said. I was careful. Careful scares them more, Coach replied, because careful lasts. Jalen rubbed his temples. What if it works? What if they just keep stopping me? Coach met his eyes. Then we keep writing it down. At home, Tanya listened, face pale. Monitoring, she said. They're watching you. They say it's support. She set the dishes down too hard. I want a meeting. We're documenting first, Jalen said gently. We're building a record. That night, Jalen couldn't sleep. Every laugh outside his door sounded like the gym again. He opened the receipts folder and added timestamps, names, quotes. He slowed his breathing the way he did when soldering. Steady hands, steady mind. A message popped up from an unknown number. You think you're special? Jalen stared, then blocked it. He added the screenshot. The next morning, the guard waved him through without stopping him. Relief flickered, then suspicion. Halfway down the hall, another guard stepped out. Random, she said. Jalen stopped. He felt the weight of it now, not just the checks, but the choice being forced on him. Shrink or be marked. He lifted his arms, calm, eyes forward. As the guard searched his bag, Jalen counted his breaths and thought a pulse. How it listened for danger quietly. How it warned without panic. When the guard stepped aside, Jalen walked on. He wasn't loud. He wasn't reckless. He was still here. Camille Brooks did not waste time. She listened while stirring honey into her tea, eyes sharp, nodding only when something mattered. Jalen sat at the kitchen table with Nia beside him, his phone plugged in. The receipts folder open like evidence waiting to be sworn in. When did the first stop happen? Camille asked. Monday, 9:12 a.m. Jalen said. Same guard. Then lunch. Then after school. Camille smiled thinly. Good. Times matter. Tanya hovered by the counter, arms crossed. They're watching him like he's dangerous. Camille set the spoon down. They're manufacturing a record. Nia leaned forward. Can they do that? They do it all the time, Camille said. But sloppy patterns are a gift. Jalen swallowed. What do we do? We ask politely, Camille said. In writing. She dictated slowly, making them type every word. Requesting all records, logs, and communications related to monitoring, security checks, and policy enforcement involving Jalen Carter between September 1st and present. Public records request? Nia asked, Sunshine Law. Camille said, deadlines scare institutions more than anger. At school, the atmosphere shifted. Teachers spoke to Jalen through tight smiles. One asked him to sit in the front for focus. Another reminded him the bell had rung when he was already seated. Donovan denied the lab access request by noon. Subject, after-school lab used due to safety and liability concerns. Independent projects are not approved at this time. Jalen stared at the screen. They approved it last semester. Camille replied from her phone. Forwarding. Document the change. Coach Ramirez called an audible. Public library, he said. Makerspace in the basement. No permission needed. The library smelled like paper and ozone. The librarian, Ms. Alvarez, showed them the soldering station with a knowing look. Seen this before, she said quietly. Kids with big ideas and small leashes. Jalen worked late. Pulse open on the table, wires humming. The device flickered, then steadied. Nia grinned. That's clean. It's learning, Jalen said, relief softening his shoulders. The next morning, a hall monitor blocked his locker. New policy, she said. Backpacks searched on Mondays. Jalen glanced at the calendar. It's Thursday. She hesitated, then waved him through. Nia wrote it down. By Friday, Donovan emailed again. Subject. Support plan to ensure success. Jalen will check in with administration twice daily. Camille read it aloud. Support plans require consent. Jalen's chest tightened. I don't consent. Then we say that. Camille said, and we stay calm. They replied, copy the counselor, the principal, the district office. Words stayed polite, precise. At dinner, Tanya watched Jalen eat without tasting. You don't have to carry this, she said. I do, Jalen replied. If I don't, it decides for me. That night, Pulse chirped softly. Kayla coughed down the hall. The device glowed yellow, early warning. Tanya moved fast, inhaler ready. Kayla's breathing eased. Tanya sagged against the wall. Tears sudden. It works, she whispered. Jalen's hands shook. It works. At school Monday, Donovan intercepted him. I hear you've been involving outside parties, Donovan said, smile thin. I'm following policy, Jalen replied. Donovan leaned in. Policy is an armor. Jalen met his eyes. It's a map. The next stop came at lunch. Another random. This time, Jalen asked, voice even, can you note the reason and time? The guard frowned. I don't have to. Okay, Jalen said. Can you note my request? The guard hesitated, then scribbled on a pad. Nia's phone buzzed. Got it, she texted. By Wednesday, the records request response arrived. Partial, delayed. Log showed 3 checks. Jalen had 8. Camille's smile returned. Discrepancy. Coach forwarded an email he'd unearthed. Donovan to staff. Limit Carter's visibility. Monitor for escalation. Jalen read it twice. The words felt heavy, but solid. Proof had weight. In the library, Ms. Alvarez slipped him a flyer. Local paper runs student features, she said. Sometimes light helps. Camille shook her head gently. Not yet. Jalen soldered one last joint, breath steady. He saved screenshots, emails, logs. He wasn't loud. He wasn't reckless. He was building two things at once. Pulse, and a record that would not disappear. Pulse chirped at 2:13 a.m. It was a soft sound, almost polite, but it cut through Jalen's sleep like a wire snapping. Yellow light pulsed on the small screen beside his bed, elevated risk. His heart jumped into his throat. Mom, he whispered, already moving. Down the hall, Kayla's breathing rasped, shallow and fast. Tanya was there first, hands steady despite the fear tightening her jaw. She pressed the inhaler, counted the seconds out loud. Pulse shifted from yellow to red, then slowly back again, the screen dimming as Kayla's breaths evened. Jalen stood in the doorway, chest heaving, watching his code do what he begged it to do. It warned us, Tanya said, voice breaking. Before. Jalen nodded, words stuck. He sank to the floor, back against the wall, adrenaline buzzing. Relief came sharp and then hollow, leaving a tremor behind. At school the next morning, exhaustion clung to him like fog. He still went straight to class, still wrote the timestamp down when the hall monitor paused too long by his desk. At 10:07 a.m., an email arrived. Subject, unauthorized recording from Assistant Principal Donovan. It has been reported that you recorded staff interactions. This violates school policy and may result in suspension. Jalen stared. He hadn't recorded anyone. His hands shook. Not with anger this time, but with the old, familiar fear of being accused because accusation was easy. Nia leaned over. You didn't. I know. Reply, she said, short. They did. I have not recorded staff. Please specify the incident. No answer came. At lunch, Donovan found him by the lockers. Office, Donovan said. Inside, the tone had changed. No smile. We're prepared to escalate, Donovan said. This behavior is disruptive. What behavior? Jalen asked, undermining authority, encouraging distrust. Jalen swallowed. By asking for records? Donovan's eyes narrowed. By involving lawyers. Camille's voice echoed in Jalen's head. Stay precise. I'm allowed to, Jalen said. Donovan leaned forward. You're testing patience. Jalen's pulse thudded. He thought of Kayla's breath last night, of the quiet alarm. I'm protecting myself. That's not your role. Donovan snapped. Then whose is it? Jalen asked, before he could stop himself. Silence stretched. Outside the office, a white sophomore, Mark Jensen. Laugh of friend. Phone out, replaying a video from yesterday's fight near the cafeteria. Donovan glanced through the glass. Mark, he called. Mark froze, then smiled. Hey, Mr. D. Put the phone away, Donovan said mildly. Don't do it again. Yes, sir. Mark walked off, laughing. Donovan turned back to Jalen. See? Consistency. Jalen's jaw tightened. That's not consistency. Donovan's voice went cold. One more incident and you're suspended. At home, Tanya listened, hands clenched in her lap. They can't threaten you like that, she said. They are, Jalen replied. Quietly, she pulled him into a hug. Fierce and sudden. I want to pull you out of that school. Jalen rested his forehead against her shoulder. I can't leave the record unfinished. That night, messages flooded in. Some supportive, many cruel. One read, should have stayed in your lane. Jalen deleted it, then saved a screenshot. Pulse sat on his desk, humming softly. He adjusted a threshold, hands steadying as he worked. Building calmed him. Building made sense. The next day, the district announced a new initiative over the loudspeaker. Eastbrook is proud to launch our equity and inclusion commitment. The principal read, ensuring fair treatment for all students. Nia snorted. Timing. By afternoon, Camille called. "They're rattled," she said. "Donovan requested a meeting with district council." "What does that mean?" Jalen asked. "It means they're worried about paper." The worry didn't stop the stares. Or the way a teacher forgot to upload Jalen's homework. Or the whisper that he was making it harder for everyone. After practice, Coach Ramirez looked tired. "They're reviewing my conduct," he said quietly. "For protocol." Jalen's stomach dropped. "Because of me?" "Because of truth," Coach replied. "Don't you shrink now." That evening, Post chirped again, yellow this time. Kayla coughed, then settled quickly. Tanya watched the screen, then Jalen. "This matters," she said. "All of it." Jalen nodded, throat tight. He felt the cost now, the way stress wrapped around his chest, the way sleep slipped away. He wasn't a hero. He was a kid counting breaths. At 11:48 p.m., his phone buzzed. "Unknown number. You brought this on yourself." Jalen stared at the words, then at Pulse's soft glow. He blocked the number, saved a screenshot, and kept building, knowing the night alarms were getting louder, but also clearer. The banner went up on a Tuesday. Eastbrook Equity Week stretched across the front steps in block letters, flanked by smiling stock photos taped to glass. Jalen paused, backpack heavy, and watched students walk under it without looking up. "Feels like a shield," Nia said beside him, "for them." Inside, Camille's email arrived before first period. Grievance filed. Records request escalated. Timelines now matter. Jalen exhaled slowly. Paper had weight. He could feel it pressing back. The district's response trickled in by afternoon, carefully incomplete. Security logs, some emails, redactions thick as black bars over names. Camille called it what it was: selective transparency. Coach Ramirez forwarded a message that made Jalen's stomach drop. From Assistant Principal Donovan to Faculty Distribution, please be mindful of interactions with Jay Carter. Limit unsupervised time. Report any escalation immediately. High risk, Nia whispered when she read it, with no referrals. That label travels. Coach said, once it sticks, it explains everything they do to you. In English class, a substitute asked Jalen to read aloud. Maybe someone else. Jalen said quietly, still catching his breath. The substitute frowned. Participate, please. A girl in the back rolled her eyes. He's always got an excuse. Jalen read, voice steady, but the words blurred. Equity stared back from the board in bright marker. At lunch, a woman in a blazer approached their table. "I'm Mrs. Delaney," she said. "District Communications." Nia stiffened. "About?" "Concerns about misinformation," Delaney replied. "We want to ensure accurate narratives." Jalen met her eyes. "I've been asking for records." Delaney smiled tightly. "Formal processes take time. Public pressure complicates that." "So does silence," Jalen said. Delaney's gaze flicked to the phones around them. "Be mindful. Statements can have consequences." After school, Camille gathered them at the library. Ms. Alvarez closed the door, left them alone. "The grievance forces a clock," Camille said. "They must respond in writing and release what they've been sitting on." "What about the edited video?" Nia asked. "Chain of custody," Camille replied. "Who filmed it? Who trimmed it? Who shared it?" Coach leaned forward. "I can get hallway footage." Camille nodded. "Do it fast." By Friday, the footage arrived. Grainy but clear. The moment before the clip went viral. Donovan stepping into Jalen's space first, voice low. Jalen's hands open, calm. The audio caught his question, plain as day. "Why doesn't it fit?" Nia's eyes shone. They cut the truth. Camille's mouth set. "That's manipulation." The district called a meeting. Conference room. Long table. Neutral paint meant to cool anger. A board member, Mr. Hawthorne, cleared his throat. "We take equity seriously," Hawthorne began, "but we also value trust in administration." Camille slid the footage across the table. "Trust requires accuracy." Donovan shifted, face pale. "That clip lacks context." Coach's voice was steady. "It shows context." Hawthorne frowned. "Coach Ramirez, you're out of line." Coach didn't blink. I'm on the record. Jalen felt the weight then, not triumph, but gravity. Every word cost something. Afterward, Coach pulled Jalen aside. They asked me to retract my recommendation. Jalen's chest tightened. Did you? No, Coach said, but it means they'll look for something. They did. An email landed that evening. Subject: Administrative Review Coach Ramirez is placed under review for protocol deviations. Nia slammed her notebook shut. They're punishing him. Camille's voice stayed calm. Retaliation is also a record. At home, Tanya paced. This is too big. I know, Jalen said, but it's already here. On Sunday, the district released a statement praising Equity Week and denying wrongdoing. The comments online split cleanly down the middle. Finally, accountability. Ungrateful kid chasing clout. A ping cut through the noise. Unknown, I have more footage. Camille replied immediately, cautious and direct. The file arrived an hour later. Emails between Donovan and Delaney discussing narrative management. Camille closed her laptop slowly. This changes leverage. At school Monday, cameras appeared, local news vans idling. Students whispered. Teachers avoided Jalen's eyes. Donovan didn't show up. By noon, the district announced he was on administrative leave pending investigation. Cheers rippled to the hallway, then faded into something quieter, heavier. Nia squeezed Jalen's hand. You did it. Jalen shook his head. No, we did paperwork. The cost landed later, when Jalen flinched at a sudden laugh, when Tanya jumped at sirens, when Coach packed his office, unsure what came next. Equity banners fluttered in the wind outside. Fine print, Jalen thought, was still print, and the record, finally, was louder than the silence. By Tuesday morning, the whispers had a voice. Lila Hart, the student journalist for the Eastbrook Ledger, cornered Jalen in the library with her notebook open. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, but her tone was careful. I've heard about the hallway clip, she said, and the stops. I want your side. Jalen's hands hovered over his bag strap. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. Not everyone, Lila said, but your story matters. The record needs telling. Coach Ramirez leaned against the table, arms crossed. I vouch for him. He's precise, careful. He's not exaggerating. Nia whispered, we've saved everything. Every email, every timestamp, every edited clip. Jalen nodded. Okay, but I'm speaking about the policy, the patterns, not the people. Lila's pen moved faster. Good. Facts, then context. The next day, the draft article appeared on the student news site. Headline: Patterns of Discipline. How random policies target certain students. The body told the story without dramatics. Security logs, missing paperwork, selective enforcement, edited hallway footage. It highlighted Jalen's consistent behavior, his documented record keeping, and the way policies shifted when applied to him versus others. Comments popped up immediately. Some cheered. Finally, someone notices. This explains so much. Others derided. Why is he making a scene? Just follow the rules. Jalen didn't read them. He read the article itself. Proof that silence could be pierced. By Friday, the article spread. Alumni shared it on social media. Parents emailed the board, and local activists called the school for comment. The video, unedited this time, made the rounds. Jalen calm, Donovan stepping first. The trimmed lines restored. The school board called a meeting. Donovan's allies and the faculty whispered warnings, but public pressure pulled the room toward accountability. Mr. Donovan, one parent said during the session, voice clipped with frustration, why was Jalen singled out when others were not? Donovan's face tightened. All measures taken were within policy, he replied. Camille raised her hand. With respect, emails show otherwise. Your staff was instructed to limit visibility of one student. That is selective enforcement. The murmurs grew. Donovan fumbled for words. He insisted the clip was misleading, but every staff member present had copies of the logs. Coach Ramirez stood quietly, holding Pulse in his bag. The prototype was the real proof of dedication, of focus, of merit under pressure. Nia whispered, it's working. Jalen felt the tension shift. For once, The narrative was his. The system couldn't rewrite what had been recorded, emailed, and saved. Outside, students gathered on the lawn, phones out. They murmured, pointed, and watched the session live-streamed. Donovan had underestimated the reach. After the meeting, Jalen sat on the library steps, phone buzzing with supportive messages from teachers, students, and even a few alumni. "It's out there now," Coach said, sitting beside him. "They can't take it back." Jalen exhaled slowly, shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. "But the backlash? It comes," Coach said. "You have to be ready for it." The backlash arrived that afternoon. Anonymous messages pinged through Jalen's accounts. Snitch, making it worse. Some classmates turned cold, ignoring him in the hall. Teachers lost assignments. Even lunchroom friends hesitated when he approached. Nia's notebook captured it all. "Every insult, every slight," she said. "Receipts, every single one." At home, Tanya tried to shield him. "Maybe it's better to lie low for a while," she said softly. "No," Jalen replied. "The truth matters more." That evening, a reporter from the local paper called Camille. Jalen agreed to a short interview, focusing on the documentation, the procedures, and the equity implications. He spoke plainly, calmly. "Kids like me," he said, "have to prove ourselves twice, not because we're less capable, but because someone decided we might cause trouble." The quote made the front page. The story went regional by morning. Donovan requested an urgent meeting with the district superintendent. His confident facade faltered under pressure. Emails he had hoped remained unseen were now public, showing a pattern of selective enforcement, edited clips, and instructions to staff that could no longer be denied. Jalen's phone buzzed continuously. "Well done. Proud of you. You're not alone." Yet, amid the triumph, he felt a low hum of tension. The whispers in the hall, the teacher who still avoided eye contact, the classmates who wouldn't share a table with him. Truth had its cost. Camille laid a hand on his shoulder. "You've done the right thing," she said. "But don't expect it to be easy from here on out." Coach Ramirez nodded. "We take our wins and keep building." Jalen looked at Pulse, resting beside him, wires neat and silent. It had warned Kayla, protected her, and now it was part of a story bigger than just a device. It was evidence, proof, and a symbol. The lights of the library dimmed as the day ended. Jalen's gaze lifted to the hallway outside. The walls seemed less oppressive now. He knew the scrutiny wouldn't disappear, but the narrative had shifted. He had the floor, and he wasn't backing down. The week after the article ran, the air in Eastbrook High felt sharper, like someone had turned the temperature down and left the school to shiver. Jalen noticed it immediately. Doors closed behind him with extra snap. Teachers glanced over their shoulders, and whispers trailed him in the hall. "Brace yourself," Nia said as they walked the first period. "Not everyone is happy with the story." By lunch, the first round of anonymous messages arrived. "Snitch, can't follow rules. You're making it worse for everyone." Some were direct, sent to a school email. Others were graffiti. Small notes left in textbooks, a smudge of ink on a locker handle, a crude drawing mocking Pulse taped inside the cafeteria. Jalen didn't reply. He saved everything. Screenshots, emails, every note. Each act of hostility became another line in his receipts folder. Coach Ramirez pulled him aside after practice. "They're targeting you because it worked," he said, "because the truth got out." "I feel alone," Jalen admitted, shoulders tight under his hoodie. "Even friends avoid me. Teachers act like I'm toxic." "Isolation is part of the cost," Coach said, "but it doesn't undo the work. It doesn't erase the proof." The backlash wasn't limited to whispers or anonymous notes. One teacher lost his completed assignments. Another gave him 0 credit for a group project, citing vague collaboration issues that didn't exist. Nia's pen moved nonstop. Name, date, action, impact. At home, Tanya's worry mounted. "I don't want them to break you," she said. "We've already seen how much stress it causes. Maybe we should consider transferring you." "I can't," Jalen said. "Not yet. Pulse, the records, the article, it's all connected. If I leave, they win." The news media kept up the pressure, reporting Donovan's administrative leave and the ongoing investigation. Public attention was a shield, but it also made him more visible, more vulnerable. One evening, Jalen returned to his room to find a sticky note on his desk. "Better watch yourself." Paul sat beside it, wires neat, blinking softly. He reached for it instinctively. The device was calm, steady, reliable. That night, he saved a note in a folder labeled threats. It joined the emails, the screenshots, the lost assignments. Each one added weight to the growing mountain of evidence. The following morning, the hallways felt different. Some students laughed openly behind his back, some whispered just out of earshot, and a few gave him curt nods, careful not to appear aligned. Jalen moved through them quietly, calculating, keeping his chest calm despite the adrenaline prickling his skin. Coach Ramirez caught him after first period. "This is temporary," he said. "It's ugly, but it's temporary. Keep documenting everything. Don't let anyone rewrite the story of what you've done." At lunch, a group of students tried to corner him. "Everyone's talking about you," one said. "You think you're some hero or something." Jalen straightened. "I just want fairness," he said. His voice was calm, measured. "I didn't make anyone do anything wrong. I just asked questions." The students laughed, but Jalen held his ground. Nia appeared beside him, silent support. That small presence made him feel like the hallways weren't entirely against him. Later that week, Coach Ramirez faced his own scrutiny. Emails from the district accused him of protocol violations, questioning why he had supported Jalen so openly. The investigation rattled him, but he refused to retract his guidance. Jalen saw the cost firsthand. Loyalty had a price. And yet, every threat, every lost grade, every whisper made the record stronger. At home, Tanya noticed the toll. Jalen flinched at sudden laughter outside his window, jumped at a siren that sounded too close, and often stayed at his desk long after dark, eyes scanning logs, emails, and timestamps. "You're carrying too much," she said one evening. "I have to," Jalen replied. "If I don't, it's like they win. Post, the article, everything. It matters, and if I leave, it all disappears." The weekend brought another wave. A video surfaced online showing Donovan in a meeting, casually instructing staff to limit Carter's visibility. The clip was accompanied by a screenshot of emails from the week prior, proving selective enforcement. Finally, Nia whispered, "Evidence they can't ignore." Camille Brooks called immediately. "The backlash is part of the story, but the exposure is turning the tide. They can't argue policy when it's documented and public." Coach Ramirez nodded. "Donovan's allies are panicking. That's why they're targeting Jalen. They know it's real." Jalen's chest tightened, not from fear, but from the emotional cost. Isolation, stress, suspicion from peers, the constant vigilance. It wore on him. But he also felt a strange clarity. Every moment of difficulty added to the narrative of truth. That night, Pulse chirped again quietly. Kayla's breathing was steady, the red warning light absent. Jalen stared at the glowing device. It had saved her. And now, the records were saving him. He opened his receipts folder and added the week's incidents. The sticky notes, the lost assignments, the whispers, the confrontations. Each entry, each timestamp, a line of defense. By Sunday evening, Jalen sat back, exhausted but resolute. Backlash would come and it would sting, but the story had momentum. The truth was documented, public and undeniable. He realized, finally, that resilience wasn't about fighting every battle in the moment. It was about staying calm, keeping records, and letting facts do the talking. Even as the hallway whispers continued, even as teachers and peers wavered between caution and suspicion, Jalen felt something he hadn't before, a quiet confidence. Pulse hummed beside him. The laptop glowed. The files were ready. And when the next step came, he would be ready, too. The battle wasn't over. Backlash would return, stronger and meaner. But Jalen had already proven something vital. That truth, when documented and unflinching, could not be silenced. The morning of the demo, Jalen felt a familiar weight of anticipation pressing down on his shoulders. The Eastbrook Youth Innovation Scholarship Committee was waiting in the conference room of the Boston Institute, and for first time, his work would speak to people who had no prior assumptions about him. No lingering shadows of edited clips or hallways filled with whispers. Coach Ramirez and Nia were there, steadying him. Tanya had flown up, insisting that she would sit quietly in the back. Camille Brooks, calm and meticulous, carried the folders of documentation, emails, security logs, timestamps, edited clips, and his receipts folder. Jalen took a deep breath. "I'm ready," he said, voice low but clear. The committee greeted him politely, faces neutral, hands folded over papers. One woman, Dr. Nguyen, leaned forward. "We've reviewed your materials, Mr. Carter. Please tell us about your project." Jalen nodded an open pulse. The small wearable glowed softly, sensors blinking in a slow rhythm. He gestured to Kayla, sitting beside Tanya, inhaler at hand. "This device monitors air quality and heart rate," he explained. "It sends alerts if it detects early signs of asthma attack. My little sister has severe attacks, and this device helps protect her. It's about safety, but it's also about access, giving children a chance to live normally without fear." He ran through the code, the design process, and the testing phases. Each line of explanation was precise, deliberate. Questions came, technical, ethical, logistical. Jalen answered all of them, sometimes pausing to demonstrate, hand steady, pulse steady. Then Dr. Nguyen asked a question he had been expecting. "Mr. Carter, you have an impressive project, but we understand you face considerable obstacles at your school. Can you speak to that?" Jalen swallowed. He could have spoken abstractly, softened the experience, but he didn't. "Yes," he said. "I have faced selective enforcement, bias scrutiny, and repeated challenges unrelated to my work. I documented everything. Hallway stops, edited clips, missing paperwork, emails. I've tried to respond calmly and maintain focus on my goals, despite those challenges." He held up the folder. "This is my record." A hush fell over the room. I scanned the pages, reading timestamps, emails, and logs. The evidence was clear, methodical, undeniable. "You were targeted?" Dr. Nguyen asked gently. "Yes," Jalen said, "because of assumptions about who I am rather than what I can do." The questions shifted then, from procedure to resilience. "How did you manage?" one committee member asked. "I focused on facts," Jalen said. "Documentation, proof, consistency. I refuse to let fear or pressure silence the work. Pulse couldn't be erased, and neither could the record of the obstacles we faced." A committee member nodded. "Leadership under pressure is crucial. Tell us how this experience shaped your approach to engineering challenges." Jalen smiled faintly. "It taught me that innovation isn't just about devices. It's about persistent integrity and fairness. A solution isn't complete if it only works when life is easy." The committee requested a live demonstration. Jalen placed pulse on Kayla's wrist, calibrating it to her vitals. Within seconds, the device responded to subtle fluctuations, alerting the display before any visible symptom appeared. "Remarkable," Dr. Nguyen said. "It's accurate, practical, and reliable." Jalen nodded. "I designed it to act before danger arrives. That's the goal." Afterward, Camille presented the records. "These emails, logs, and footage show selective enforcement at Eastbrook High. The patterns are documented and corroborated." The committee reviewed everything, occasionally glancing at Jalen, recognizing that the project and the perseverance behind it were inseparable. Outside, Donovan's influence was relevant. The hallway whispers, the lost assignments, the edited clips, all powerless in this room. Only facts, results, and resilience mattered. The committee adjourned to deliberate. Jalen stepped aside, feeling the adrenaline draining from his body. Coach put a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," he said. "No edits, no omissions. You showed them everything." Nia grinned. "Even better than I imagined." Tanya hugged him, quietly sobbing. "You were brave and careful, both." Minutes later, Dr. Nguyen returned with a smile. "Mr. Carter, your project, your record, and your presentation demonstrate exceptional capability and leadership. We would like to offer you the scholarship to the Summer Institute." Jalen's chest swelled, but he held back tears. He thought of the cost, the anxiety, the scrutiny, the hours alone documenting every detail, but also the victory. Proof mattered. Persistence mattered. "Thank you," he said, voice steady. Camille whispered, It's your integrity that got you here, not just a device. Back at Eastbrook, news of the outcome traveled fast. Donovan, already under investigation, could no longer obscure the pattern. Emails requesting his removal circulated. Staff who had complied quietly began shifting their stance. Coach Ramirez received clearance from the district, vindicated, but the emotional toll was visible. The lines under his eyes, the stiffness in his shoulders, the careful calculation in every move. They were scars of advocacy. At home, Tanya watched Jalen sleep that night, calm for the first time in weeks. Pulse rested beside him, softly glowing. It had saved Kayla and protected truth at the same time. Jalen lay back, exhausted but resolute. He knew the victory wasn't simple. There would be lingering tension at Eastbrook, whispered conversations, and the psychological weight of months under scrutiny. But he also knew this. He had proved that diligence, evidence, and unwavering focus on truth and fairness could withstand pressure, bias, and manipulation. And for the first time in months, he allowed himself a small smile. Pulse hummed gently beside him. Kayla, breathing evenly, and the world for a moment seemed steady again. The battle at Eastbrook was far from over, but Jalen Carter had shown what mattered most: resilience in the face of bias, truth in the face of distortion, and courage in the face of silence. The final week of the semester at Eastbrook High carried a strange, brittle quiet. Hallways were crowded. Yet Jalen felt a distance between him and everyone else, a combination of relief and lingering tension. His scholarship in hand, Pulse refined and functioning, and Kayla safe, he should have felt unburdened. Yet the scars of months of scrutiny, whispered judgment, and constant documentation lingered like an undercurrent he couldn't shake. Donovan had officially resigned during the week, citing personal reasons, though everyone knew the record, the public attention, and the district investigation had made staying impossible. Emails surfaced showing the selective monitoring, edited clips, and instructions to staff to limit Jalen's visibility. Proof no one could deny. Yet victory felt incomplete. Teachers who had once seemed neutral now avoided eye contact, hesitant to speak with him directly. Students whispered in the halls, some still calling him a snitch, some staring with curious respect, unsure where they stood. Coach Ramirez found him in the library after lunch, where Jalen sat reviewing Pulse's logs. "They cleared me," Coach said, voice calm but tired. "But that doesn't erase the months of stress. It leaves its mark." "I know," Jalen replied. He traced the edge of Pulse's case, feeling its weight. "I feel it. Everywhere. Every hallway. Every comment." Coach nodded. "And that's normal. What you endured was unfair, but you endured it. That counts more than they'll ever admit." The scholarship committee had invited him to Boston to continue refining Pulse over the summer, with mentorship from university engineers. Jalen knew the opportunity was a rare lifeline, but leaving Eastbrook also meant stepping away from the battle he had fought so fiercely. At home, Tanya helped Kayla with homework, but her eyes often lingered on Jalen. "You're going to Boston," she said softly. "You deserve this. But what they put you through," her voice faltered, "I wish you didn't have to carry it." "I couldn't ignore it," Jalen said. "Not just for me, but for everyone else who might face the same treatment. Someone has to document it, show it's wrong." Camille Brooks joined them later that evening, files in hand. "The district's issuing revised policies," she explained. "Better oversight, stricter auditing of enforcement, and training on unconscious bias. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Your records force them to act." Jalen nodded, exhausted but alert. The victory was tangible, but it came with cost. His trust in the casual fairness of authority had been shattered. The next day at school, some students approached him tentatively. One junior, a girl who had sat quietly through much of the ordeal, handed him a note. "You showed courage. Don't let them make you small." Jalen folded it carefully, letting a small spark of warmth settle in his chest. By Friday, the last public acknowledgement arrived. A brief assembly where the principal praised students who had demonstrated initiative, responsibility, and civic engagement. Jalen's name was read, accompanied by a description of Pulse and his advocacy for equitable treatment. Applause echoed through the gym, polite and measured, yet genuine in parts. Standing at the edge of the bleachers, Jalen felt a complicated pride. This was recognition, yes, but also a reminder that victories in the real world often come layered with scrutiny, consequences, and personal cost. Coach Ramirez clapped him on the shoulder. "It's not over," he said. "You'll face new challenges, but you're prepared. You have the skill, the clarity, and the proof. And sometimes, proof is stronger than opinion." That night, Jalen returned to his room. Pulse lay on the desk, softly blinking, a quiet guardian in the glow of the lamp. He reviewed the data one last time. Kayla's improved readings, his logs, timestamps of every obstacle, every hurdle documented. He felt the weight of months, relentless documentation, whispered hostility, administrative scrutiny, but he also felt clarity. The record he built would outlast fear. Tanya knocked softly and stepped inside. "It's late," she said, voice low. "I just wanted to remind you, you've done more than most kids your age. You've stood up to unfairness and built something real while doing it. That's rare." Jalen smiled faintly. "I couldn't have done it alone." He gestured to the folders, the glowing pulse, the quiet room filled with evidence of endurance. "And I wasn't alone." The following week, Eastbrook High seemed to shift. Policies were revised, administrators more cautious, teachers more deliberate. The hallways remained a mixture of curiosity, respect, and lingering whispers, but Jalen walked through them with steady posture, no longer flinching at sudden laughter or sideways glances. At home, the family celebrated quietly. Kayla giggled as Pulse alerted her gently during a playful game. Her coughs anticipated and prevented. Tanya smiled with relief, her hands steady for the first time in months. Camille reviewed the remaining documentation, marking off successes, suggestions, and recommendations. Jalen reflected on the journey. Months of unfair scrutiny, selective enforcement, edited clips, and personal attacks. He recognized the cost, not just anxiety and fear, but altered relationships, shaken trust, and the vigilance required to protect oneself. Yet the reward was tangible. Pulse working, his scholarship secured, systemic flaws exposed, and his own resilience proven. He placed Pulse carefully back on the shelf, wires coiled neatly, blinking softly in the dark. The device had been more than a project. It had been a symbol of his persistence, an instrument of protection, and a testament to measured, evidence-based resistance. As he lay in bed that night, Jalen felt the quiet hum of potential and possibility. There would be more challenges ahead, in Boston and beyond. But he now knew the power of careful observation, methodical documentation, and unwavering integrity. He had faced the system, navigated its flaws, and emerged intact, though marked, aware, and resilient. He closed his eyes, finally allowing himself the faintest smile. He had fought, endured, and built, and for now that was enough. Outside, the world continued its noise, but inside Jalen Carter's room, Pulse blinked steadily, a quiet, unwavering heartbeat of truth, justice, and hope. The story had a resolution. The abuser was exposed, the system forced to respond, and the protagonist had endured, not unscathed, but triumphant in his integrity, resilience, and vision.